Good morning and welcome to Discover Church. I'm glad you're here in the service with us today. You know, I can sympathize a little bit, and maybe you can too. For all of you, they're going to be running in the Redbud Classic this afternoon about 2 o'clock. I thought about running, I really did, but a couple, 3 weeks ago, I thought, you know, I'm gonna jump on the treadmill and I'm gonna make a difference. You know, I'm gonna get back into shape. I'm gonna take a few pounds off, you know, that I feel like I need to in certain areas. And so I get on the treadmill that night, and I'm on the treadmill, you know, and I'm going like a 3 or a 4, which is just not real comfortable for me. That's an in-between distance. And my wife walks in and she says, "What are you doing?" You know, like she was surprised that I was exercising. I was trying to do something different, you know. I said, "Well, I'm just exercising. I just want to do something different. I'm just, you know." She's all right. She turns around and walks out, you know. And so I get up the next morning extremely early. Everybody's asleep in the house. And I thought, you know, I ran a mile last night, and that was pretty good. I'm going to run a couple miles this morning, you know. So I start, and I pump it up, Wendy. I'm like at 5, and I'm thinking 5's pretty good, and I go to a 6, and now I'm at a 7, you know, and all you can hear is throughout the whole house. So my son comes down the hallway, and we have this room, you know, that there's a door in, you can see from the hallway, and my son is in a pair of shorts, you know, and just woke up, and he looks into the room, and he goes, "Is that you, Dad?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And he goes, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm just running." And he just like, "Ah." And then he walks back to bed. So I run 2 miles, right? I run 2 miles. I'm feeling good about myself. I'm feeling, you know, just good about running. I couldn't walk that day. You know, I couldn't, I mean, everything I did, you know, like I went to put on my shoes and I sat down at the couch and I bent over and all of a sudden, you know, it's like you just can't tie your shoes hardly at all. And so that was the last 2 miles I've ever ran. You know, it was just a few weeks ago. I decided the Redbud is for somebody else. So you guys that are going, you go and enjoy your time running. Hopefully I'll see you on the television and I'll watch you and wave. So, you know, but today we really do have some people that I want to introduce to you. You know them pretty well, but some students of ours that have been running throughout this season, have been running track. And I want to talk about them for just a second. So, guys, if you'd come up real quick. We got Jennifer, and then Cooper here is in the middle, and then this is Mr. T there on the end. But Dre, all these guys have been running track this season, and there's several other students here too in the sanctuary this morning that have ran as well. And so I can vouch for Jennifer. As she started running at the beginning of the track season, it was pretty hard, wasn't it? I mean, pretty difficult. They want you to run a mile or 2 miles or 3 miles, and they don't want you to stop. And so you really, it's just kind of a grueling, awful pain, and you wonder in your mind, like, why did I ever start track in the first place? You know, I should have done something totally different, like sewing. You know, you don't have to do anything. You'd be good at sewing, wouldn't you? Yeah. And so, I mean, you know, sewing's not hard. You could do, but here I am at track. And so, what did you start out this year, your mile, when you started the year out, your very first mile? What was it? Like 7:39 was the starting mile, and it was pretty hard to get through. I mean, it wasn't like just an easy jog, right? Okay. Just agree, it makes the sermon more interesting if you're a little bit more animated. Yes, 7:39, something like that, okay? Okay. So anyway, and so she's been running the 800 and the mile, and tell everybody what's your final time, what you shaved off. 7:15. 7:15 was the last mile. So she improved, give her a hand on that. She improved on her time, and she medaled this year, and so I was very, very proud of her and what she did. Thanks, Jen, for coming up. All right, here is Coop, And Coop and I are good friends, aren't we, Cooper?
Yeah.
We share Doritos.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you offered me part of your sandwich at one of those track meets, didn't you? Well, no, I forget that. I asked for part of your sandwich, and you told me if there was enough, you'd give it to me, right?
Yeah, I said that.
But there wasn't. No, okay, and we didn't. So here's the deal with Cooper. Cooper, what grade are you in?
I'm in 6th.
6th grade. Who were you running with?
The 7th graders?
With the 7th graders. You were running a year up, right?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I really, when I started watching Coop run, I thought, he's got that shaggy hair, I thought if he'd cut that, make it a little bit more aerodynamic, if he'd slick it back when he was running. But no. Sorry about that. But no, this dude has so much guts, you can't even believe it. And you ran on some relays. Did you run the 800?
I ran it once.
Once? Okay, and then you ran the mile, right? Tell everybody what you ran the mile in on Friday.
5 minutes and 53 seconds.
5 minutes and 53 seconds. You know that mile that I did that night, before I ran the 2 miles that next morning?
Yeah.
It only took me about 3 or 4 times that long to do it, But I was doing that on purpose. I wasn't.
Yeah,
okay.
You only had...
Yeah, I just had it on 3, so I couldn't have done it any faster than that or anything. So, but anyway, I'll tell you, Cooper is so determined when he's out there on that track. He's running, and he's running, and he's running, and he's picking off the guy that's in front of him just like he's supposed to. He's disciplined in his running. He doesn't just take off 100 miles an hour and burn himself out, but he sets his pace where he wants it to be, and he just, one at a time, he goes and he catches those guys. I was watching him in a race just a couple weeks ago where he turns the corner, and it wasn't necessarily for first place. So if it wasn't for first, then who cares, right? No, he finds a guy that they're neck and neck as they come down the stretch, and they are just booking it, sprinting after this long race. He runs so hard that he pulls a muscle, and you see him about halfway down. Thank you. About halfway down the stretch, you can see him as he runs, and he'll throw his hand on his back, and then he'll run some more, and he'll throw his hand on his back. By the time he got to the finish line, neck and neck with this other guy, he had pulled a muscle in his back, I believe it was. Maybe a leg. Well, you were holding your back, though, so maybe your arms aren't long enough to reach. And you were like comforting. You said, "Oh, I wish I could get to my leg." I don't know. Somewhere in this area here, he had pulled a muscle, and he couldn't hardly walk when he walked off the track. That was pure determination. I'm really proud of you, man. Give Cooper a big hand. And when I'm around you, I just want to say, I pity the fool. You know who Mr. T is, don't you?
Yeah.
Okay, just making sure. My daughter didn't know who Lionel Richie was the other night when we were watching that special on TV. Lady. Oh, anyway. Okay, so obviously Dre excelled in track and running against 7th graders. And I'll tell you what, some people, I kind of look at Dre kind of like as a David. Some people count him out. He says his legs aren't as long as other people, But let me just tell you, you get Dre out on the track, he's kind of like Cooper or Jennifer or Antonia or any of these other people that have ran this season. He's fearless. Fearless. So throughout the season, he's deciding that, what did you start the mile at running? 6:09. Okay. So he starts out at 6:09, which is, I think it's pretty quick, And so he finds out what the record is for the school, which was set by Preston Hunter some time ago. And so he just tells his dad and his mom, he says, I'm gonna set the record in the mile this year. And I heard him say it. And I thought, yeah, that's a good goal for you. You should try that. Really. You should try it. And he's like, no, I'm gonna win the record. I'm going to beat the record. I am determined to make sure that I beat the record in the last track meet. And so he had ran several events that day and obviously had medaled in several of them. And they line up to go the mile. There's a kid from Shawnee there that's just phenomenal that runs as well. And I watched Dre take off, and Dre is right on his heels. His dad's on the far side, and I can hear Daniel screaming, you know, stay with him, son, stay with him, you got to go with him. This guy's strides is longer than Dre. So Dre has to double time it to stay up with him, I think. And he makes the corner. He's still on his heels. He's running with him the whole time. He's doing a really good job. And his speed is much faster than what I've seen him run before. Cooper, you were right there with them, you know, in that pack as they were running around. And so tell me, what's the record?
5:43.
5:43 is the record. And that's booking it for 7th grade. And why don't you just tell the crowd this morning what you ran it in? 5:40. So when Dre was coming around on his 4th lap on the 3rd corner, all right, there was a friend that was sitting next to me, and he was coming down that backside, and he was coming, and I said, oh, it looks like he's weakening a little bit. You know, that guy's going to pull from him. It just looks like it is. I said, but he's normally got a kick. He normally finishes strong. And Dre, I was so amazed. I'm serious. I'm not just making this up. But I teared up as Dre was turning the corner, and he kicks it in, and he sprints from the back corner all the way to the finish line and never looked back. Never thought, I'm going to slow down. Never thought, I'm going to quit this. He knew that there was a goal in mind and that there was a finish line, and he wanted to be the one with the best time ever at the 7th grade level at his junior high or the middle school there in Noble. And he did it. And it was amazing how he finished strong, and he finished that race. Now, when you were done, you couldn't breathe, could you? He was gasping for air. We thought he was going to die, you know, all that stuff. But he finished, and he got the goal that he desired, that he wanted. So, anyway, thanks, Dre, for coming up this morning. You either have a desire to run or you don't. You know, a lot of times I have a desire to sit on the couch and eat potato chips, and that's where I excel, is on the couch. But, you know, when you decide you're going to do something and you put your mind to it, you should finish, and you should finish it strong. There's no reason that you should try to quit. He's got so many medals, he just jingles when he leaves. You shouldn't quit. Merry Christmas to you. 2 Timothy chapter 4. I love 2 Timothy chapter 4 because it talks about Paul is writing this letter to Timothy, and he's really encouraging him to do his best, and he's telling Timothy that he's finishing strong. So I want to read the first part of that scripture to you in verse 4, and I want to talk about it for just a few minutes this morning. It says, in the presence of God and of Jesus Christ, whom will judge the living and the dead, and in view of his appearing and his kingdom, I give you this charge. So basically all that's saying, here I am to encourage you, Timothy. He said, preach the word. Be prepared in season and out of season. Correct, rebuke, and encourage with great patience and careful instruction. So basically what Paul is saying there to Timothy is, I want you to do what you were made to do. I'm encouraging you right now. I am charging you right now to make sure that what you started today, that you are going to be engaged in that. Timothy, I want you to preach the word. I want you to take this message that I've told you about, and I want you to tell everybody that you come in contact with. I want you to have such a desire today that you eat and sleep and you drink this. And this is what I want you to do. This is what your life is all about. You're to encourage, and you have to correct. And there's times that you have to go to people and you have to rebuke. But do that in patience, and do that in kindness, and do that in love. but make sure that you desire to do it. And so this morning I come to you and I want to ask you that question about your life. If Paul was writing a letter to you and told you to go out and to do this, preach the word, be prepared in season, out of season, make sure, what would you have to say to Paul? Would you say, Paul, I tried it last night, I did it for a little while, and I got up early the next morning, and I tried it out, but then it was way too hard. It was way too difficult. And I just decided that maybe there'd be something else I could do. Maybe there'd be something else I should be involved in. But this God stuff, maybe it's just too hard. We leave it a lot of times up to somebody called a preacher, whoever that is, or somebody called a pastor, whoever that is. We say, I've heard people say, it's my job to bring them and it's your job to save them. And I think that's just not right. That's not right at all. You've got that confused somewhere. You've missed the boat. It's your job to minister to them. And it's your job to lead them to Christ. And if that just so happens to be in a service like this, and I get to participate in it, then I'm happy to do so. But more than that, I think it's a charge to run the race that's before us and run it effectively. And if we're going to do that, then we have to take on that individual responsibility for ourselves. Paul writes to Timothy, he says, you need to preach the word. You need to be ready for this all the time, because there's going to be things that come into your life, areas, situations that you've got to be ready to be able to respond and to help people out. All different types of situations. And if you're not just passionate about it, if you don't just desire it, there might be times that you decide to slack off and not do what you're supposed to do. Please tell me this morning. Please tell me this morning that you desire to serve God in any way that He calls you to be and calls you to do. That you desire today to be ready at all times, no matter what comes your way. Because today Paul knew that was important to Timothy, so he wrote him that letter. If you continue to read on, after he tells him to preach the word, he says, for the time will come when men will not. I had to read that a couple times. It said, for a time will come when men will not put up with sound doctrine. Why in the world wouldn't they? If something is sound and solid and right, why wouldn't they put up with that? That's what you would desire normally, right? But no. Instead, it's to suit their doctrine. And instead, to suit their own desires. They will gather around them in a great number of teachers to say what their itching ears want to hear. They will turn their ears away from the truth and turn aside to the myths. Not everybody wants to hear your message. Not everybody wants to listen to you when you're talking about God, or when you're talking about your church, or when you're talking about things that God has done for you. And notice this, last week, several of the people from this church stood on a cross on 77, and the sign said, He took your place. I thought it was pretty clear. Those people standing on the cross was just telling the world that He took my place. That's what He did. And I don't have to be here on this cross because He took that position for me. And I found out really quick that people will turn from sound doctrine. People will turn from things that are good in a heartbeat. Because as they would drive by, there was a few members, they cussed them out. Don't you have something better to do, really? Than to drive by and to scream profanity at somebody that's trying to to make a stance and say, this is what I believe. There were people that would drive by and they would put up a finger, and it wasn't your number one, you know. And you would oh goodness. I would walk down there. It was the first time I'd walked down there. I walked down there with one of the students that are here in church. And he got up there, and his dad was standing beside him. And it wasn't 5 seconds. The first person that drove by, he was in a truck, and you could see him rolling his window down. And when he came by, he flipped off this little kid that was on the cross. Oh, anger just went through me so much. You know, I thought if I could catch that little punk. You know, when people are faced with the truth and sound doctrine like you have, there's going to be opposition to it at times. That's when you have to decide if you're going to be disciplined or not. If you're just going to, even though people gripe at you and complain at you and tell you they don't want to hear what you have to say, and even if people are telling you, you know, hey, I don't want to have any part of what you're doing. Is the calling that God put on your life, is the desire that you have in your heart strong enough, and is it good enough to make you go through even those times? We have to learn, and I think Paul knows. I think Paul knows it because he's writing it to Timothy. Just the desire is not enough. Just running a mile that night and 2 miles the next morning, that's not enough to prepare me for the Red Bud today, which is like 6. I can't run it today. I would faint. I would fall down. I would not make it. I would collapse. They would come get me in a stretcher. They would take me to St. Anthony's Hospital. They would have to put oxygen on me. I'm telling you, it would not work. And it's not going to work with us either if we're not totally disciplined. Even when opposition comes against us. Even when people at work say, I do not want to hear about your God anymore. You don't go home and you say, man, I just don't know if I want to do this anymore. I don't know that I want to continue to witness. I don't know that I want to continue to go up to that church and work there where people can come in and be a part. And I just don't know anymore. Because it's hard. It's difficult. Let me just say, those students that were standing here today, 7th and 8th grade, they went and they ran after school every day. Some of them would go to volleyball practice. Some of them would go to soccer. Some of them would probably go home and just run some more. But they loved to run. And they were disciplined in what they did. And because of that, they were greatly rewarded. Because they were able to finish strong in what they were doing. Let's just continue to read just a few more verses here this morning. Paul tells Timothy, but you keep your head in all situations. If they drive by and hurl insults at you, I heard somebody say, I wanted to scream back. And I didn't. I had to keep self-control. I know Jesus, when he was on the cross, and all the stuff that he never responded to them in a negative way. Like, what are you doing to me? You fools. And Paul's passing that on to Timothy. But you keep your head in all situations. Endure hardship. It's hard. It's difficult. It's a struggle. I understand. Sometimes living a Christian life is not easy. It's difficult because as soon as you start doing something that's right for God, the enemy comes in and he tries to do things to you to keep you from accomplishing the goals that you desire. He tries to beat you down And don't tell me there's not an enemy that comes against us. Anytime this church is going to do something amazing for God, anytime that we see tremendous growth, or anytime that we say we're going to start remodeling this or that, and we know that people are going to come to it, things start happening. Even now, there's numbers of people that are on the staff or inside their family that have been diagnosed with something, that have went through hardships, that are having really difficult health problems. You just tell me that the enemy doesn't have something to do with just bringing us to that point. Something amazing is happening at Discover Church. I don't know if you know it yet or not. Spain, when you did that, I thought, man, I'd like to have one of those organs, like a black preacher, wah wah, and then we could do it again. Just for a second, I just thought, man, that'd be cool. That would have been the time. Living a Christian life is not always easy. Sometimes it's very, very difficult. You say, well, why would I want to live a difficult life when I can just breeze through? Even if the enemy's doing things to me, it just seems easier on the other side. It'd be like running a track meet. Jennifer or Dre or Cooper or one of the other students that run track. It'd be like running the mile. And on lap 3, you say, it would be easier instead of going one more lap if I just cut across. And I could end up in the same spot, right? If I just cut across. What happens when you cut across is you're disqualified. It's easier to cut across. But you disqualify yourself if you do. I want you to listen to the words of Paul when he finishes all of this up. But you keep your head in all situations, endure hardship, do the work of an evangelist, discharge all the duties of your ministry. For I am already being poured out like a drink offering. That's Paul. I'm giving everything I've got. And time has come for me, for my departure. So he's saying, I'm not going to be here much longer with you. But these are the words that he had for Timothy. I fought the good fight. I finished the race. I've kept the faith. Listen. Now there is in store for me the crown of righteousness, which the Lord, the righteous judge, will award to me on that day. He's saying, Timothy, just go do what you're supposed to do. Just go tell this world about me. And there's going to be people that don't want to listen, and there's going to be people that pass by that push you aside, but you keep telling them over and over and over. They need to know who Jesus is. They might not know they need to know, but they do. So fulfill your desires and be disciplined in everything you do. And when you finish the race, like I'm doing, you can say that you've kept the faith, that you've done everything. When those kids are coming down that last 100 meters, as a parent, as a coach, you're on the sideline and you're saying, give it everything you got. Come on, leave it all right here. Man, you got to go now. Hurry. And you watch those kids and they're just pouring everything they've got into it because they know the finish line is coming soon. And when they finish, whether they medal or not, it's a reward. Because they've accomplished it. They've given everything they could. And that's exactly what Paul's saying here. Timothy, I'm in the final stretch. I'm running home. And when I get to that place, I want you to know that I have done everything that I could do to make sure that my life was counted. You do the same, Timothy. You do the same. You make sure that your life is counted for, and don't just run a mile one night and run two the next day and then quit on me. Listen to me. Don't you dare. Don't you dare quit on me. We got things to do. We got places to go. We got people to minister to. Don't you dare quit on me. Don't make this just some kind of nonchalant thing that you just come and go. I want you to make sure that you run this Christian race with desire. If you don't have desire this morning, oh, Holy Spirit, come right now. Fill our souls today. Give me the hunger. Give me the desire to serve you more. Give me the desire to get up even when it hurts and do it anyway. Because there's people counting on us today. Where lives hang in the balance between heaven and hell. And you are the one that's coming down that final lane. And God this morning is saying, you can do it. You can do it. Finish strong. Give it everything you got. Don't quit on me right now. The prize is right ahead. And there will come a day. You say, I don't think that day's coming soon. There will come a day. Where He'll look at you and He'll say, well done, my good and faithful servant. He'll say, get in here with me. We got heaven to do. Or He'll have to look you in your eyes. And He'll say, depart from me because I never knew you. I don't know who you are. You never served me. You didn't finish strong. You quit. You walked across the track and you came to this point and you thought you could get the same type of reward. You thought you could get the same type of stuff, but you can't because you did not finish the race. I want you to heed Paul's words today. I want you to listen to the words that he had for Timothy, and I want you to apply them to your life this morning. And you promise God today that you'll finish strong.